the habit Einstein used to think differently than everyone else. There is a common assumption that genius operates quickly, that exceptional minds see answers faster than ordinary ones, that they process information with greater speed while the rest of us struggle to keep pace. But when you spend time with Albert Einstein's private notebooks, his drafts, and his letters to friends and colleagues, a very different picture emerges. His mind did not move quickly. It moved slowly, deliberately. The breakthroughs that changed our understanding of the universe did not come from speed, but from a particular habit of thought, one that is largely absent from how we are trained to think. What I am describing comes not from popular biographies or famous quotations, but from Einstein's own words. His correspondence, his unpublished reflections, his explanations of how his ideas actually developed. And what becomes clear is this: Einstein's way of thinking was not a matter of extraordinary mental power. It was a matter of where he placed his attention. The habit itself can be stated simply, though its consequences are profound. Einstein consistently questioned assumptions that everyone else took for granted, not the controversial ones, but the foundational ones. The ideas so familiar and so deeply embedded that they had become invisible. He once wrote that the most important skill in physics was the ability to look at familiar things with the eyes of a stranger. For him, this was not a metaphor, it was a discipline, and it was the source of nearly everything that made his work original. This habit appeared early. As a child, Einstein was shown a compass by his father. The needle moved without being touched, always pointing north. Most children find this briefly interesting and move on. Einstein did not. He later wrote that the experience disturbed him deeply, not because he wanted to know how magnets worked, but because it revealed that something invisible was acting through empty space. What stayed with him was not the puzzle itself, but the discomfort it produced, the sense that the world did not behave the way common sense suggested. He did not let that feeling dissolve into familiarity. This is the first sign of the habit, refusing to let disturbing observations become normal. Formal education worked against this tendency. At school in Munich, Einstein was not considered exceptional. He resisted memorization. He questioned methods presented without justification. Teachers found him difficult, but the issue was not defiance. It was his refusal to build on foundations he had not personally examined. He did not want to learn how to solve problems within a system. He wanted to know whether the system itself was sound. This pattern continued. He failed an entrance exam, left school, and eventually found himself working at the Swiss Patent Office. These years are often described as a detour. In reality, they gave him something essential: freedom from academic orthodoxy. He was not surrounded by professors reinforcing standard assumptions. He was alone with his questions. And it was during this period that he produced the work that transformed physics, not by collecting new data, but by asking a question so basic it had never been carefully examined. What does it actually mean to say that two events happen at the same time? Simultaneity had always been assumed to be absolute. Einstein asked how we determine it. If one observer stands on a platform and another sits on a moving train, their judgments of simultaneity depend on their motion. From this simple question, special relativity emerged. Not from experiment, but from examining an assumption no one else thought to question. This habit is rare. Most thinking, even among intelligent people, operates within inherited frameworks. This is not a flaw. It is how knowledge progresses. But it has a cost. If a foundational assumption is wrong, and no one examines it, the entire structure built on it becomes increasingly detached from reality. Einstein looked at the foundations while others extended the building. But this way of thinking came at a cost. Einstein was often isolated. His early work was ignored. His later years were marked by intellectual loneliness. He rejected the standard interpretation of quantum mechanics because he believed it rested on unjustified assumptions. He spent decades pursuing ideas that never succeeded. The habit that enabled his greatest insights also limited him. Questioning assumptions does not guarantee correct answers. It guarantees difficulty. There were personal costs as well, strained relationships, distance, a life often lived inwardly. This is not a story of uncomplicated triumph. And yet the habit matters, because modern life actively discourages it. Education rewards competence within established frameworks, not examination of their foundations. Professional life rewards fluency, not doubt. By adulthood, most people stop asking fundamental questions not because they lack intelligence, but because questioning feels inefficient and risky. And so assumptions persist, invisible and unquestioned. I am not going to tell you what to do with this. That would miss the point. But there are concepts you use every day about time, space, cause, explanation that you have never examined. They feel like reality itself, when in fact they are inherited tools, shaped by history. Einstein did not have better tools than anyone else. He simply refused to use tools he had not inspected. That habit is still available. The question is whether any of us are willing to pay what it costs to use it.